friends, and welcome to another episode of the Handyman Success Podcast. My name is Jason Call, owner of Handyman Marketing Pros. I'm with my co-host, Alan Lee, owner of the Handyman Journey Business Coaching and Honestly Handyman Services in Sacramento, California. Our mission with this podcast, if you've been with us, as you know, is to use our guest stories and their experience within their business to provide you inspiration that you can achieve the goals that you have, whether you're new or well-established, and also take away very practical tips you can apply in your business to take things to the next level. So with no further ado, we're super excited today to have our guest, Rick McFadden with Enhanced Property Maintenance out of Castle Rock, Colorado. Thank you so much, Rick, for being with us. If you don't mind giving us, a little lay of the land introduction about yourself and your business.
Thanks, Jason and Alan. My name is Rick McFadden. I own Enhanced Property Maintenance. We opened the beginning of 2018. We're located in Castle Rock, Colorado. As Jason said, we service Douglas County. So Douglas County is the southern collar county to Denver, the Denver metro area. We're located between Denver and Colorado Springs. One of the interesting things about Douglas County is we're always in the top 10 most affluent counties in the nation. And if you back out the Washington, D.C. counties, we're in the top 5. So we're fortunate. A lot of what I'll talk about, we try to play higher end. We try to be the Nordstrom in the sector, if you will. So that's where we're located.
Awesome. And I know one reason why we're especially excited to have you is that you've labeled yourself as the mid-sized handyman company. So with that, if you could share kind of, where, maybe last year's like revenue and what your goal is this year, and kind of like what, like your team, like technicians, office staff, all that good stuff.
Sure, Jason. And I joke that I feel like I'm a super fan of Handyman Success Podcast. So, we've seen a lot of guys on the podcast that are newer or smaller, and we've seen the Ben Alexanders and the Chris Lalomias that are multi-million. I'm kind of in the middle. I'll share my numbers. So our first year in 18, we did 108,000. In 19, we did 173, and then 374, 646. Last year we did 820,000, and this year we're working night and day to hit 1 million.
Awesome. And what kind of got you into this business? Like, can you tell us a little bit of that story? Give us a little background of, what prompted you to start this up in 2018?
Yeah, good question. So I grew up in a family of cops and carpenters. We did everything ourselves. After I graduated college, yeah.
Okay.
All I knew growing up was cops and carpenters.
Yep. Okay. Double C, CC, cops and carpenters. That's all you need.
Right.
Makes the world go around.
Yep. And I grew up in a Chicago suburb. I didn't want to work outside in the winter. So I pursued a law enforcement administration degree, only to find in my last semester, I did an internship that's not what I wanted to do. So I was an officer in the Marine Corps for 4 years, got out, I got my MBA. We may find in this podcast how geeked out I get, but my concentration in my MBA was operations management. So I love the data. I worked in corporate for about 20 years, and I made it to middle management. I was a VP at Chase, and I had teams underneath me, managers working for me. But the problem with middle management is any little blip, leadership change, you're out. So in my last 4 years, I was laid off 4 times in 4 years with leadership changes, economic changes. And I was determined, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not doing this. My wife homeschooled our 2 kids. She wasn't working. And I hooked up with a franchise recruiter. And I had to get off one of our phone calls because I had a side gig, a handyman gig, because I've always done this stuff on the side for myself, for friends. And he's like, handyman, I got a handyman franchise. So we started going down that path. And fortunately, my wife said, we don't need a franchise. We can do this on our own, which is our running joke. There was no we, it was me. Uh, so
Inspiration.
right, exactly. So some of the guys on these podcasts have talked about reserves and being prepared, and I was broke because I'd been laid off several times. I had no reserves. I had no second income, with Cindy. It was just go for it.
Wow.
And so for 4 years, starting in 18, when I opened, for 4 years, I'd get the materials in the morning, work all day, do estimates on my way home, eat dinner, write the estimates at night or on Saturdays. It was brutal. But I share that story because, over and over, we've heard about guys with great plans, and I compliment them. They were financially ready for it. That wasn't me. I was trying to make the next month's first day of the month mortgage payment. And it was just a scramble.
And how did that work for you? I mean, were you able to pay all the bills as you went? I mean, or was there a point where you kind of struggled in the business getting going?
No, God provided it.
Awesome.
It wasn't pretty, but we did it.
Beautiful. So at those first days, like, how did you find work? Like, what was your strategy to find work those first days? Not prepared, no money in the account. What'd you do?
It was referrals. Friends would call me, and then their neighbors would call me. I got friends in the trades, painters and stuff. They would flip me business. Looking back, it was archaic. I don't know how I pulled it off.
Yeah, that's a good, thinking about you cops and carpenters, right? So yeah, you guys probably had some connections in that industry. So they probably knew about you.
Right.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Was your business was it from the get-go, Rick? Was it enhanced property maintenance? Is that what you started as, or is that something that transformed?
Yeah, that's a fun story. I remember it vividly. My wife and I sitting on the couch, and we just kind of sketched this thing out. And we were coming up with names, doing the synonyms, doing the thesaurus thing. We came up with enhanced. I didn't want handyman in the name, because my vision for this is to kind of be the Nordstroms, in the industry, in the sector. I don't know if that was the right move or not, because everyone now says, well, what exactly do you guys do? We're handymen. Oh, okay.
That was different certainly like 10 years ago.
Yeah, we're changing the game for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, I used 48 hours. This might help startups. I went to 48hourlogo.com, and you tell them what you want to do, kind of what you're thinking, and then they just pump you with logos. I guess there's freelance folks out there for like the next 48 hours. Then you pick one. So that's what we did.
Wow. That sounds like the 48 hours, to develop your pictures at Walgreens. That sounds old school, man.
Right.
So your first year, Rick, it was a little over 100,000 in annual revenue, like your first full year as like solo Rick McFadden, like handyman style. And then looking at where you are today, this year, you're shooting for $1 million in revenue. If we could get like a little bit more snapshot of like your business right now, like how many technicians do you have, or like your staff, trucks, and then kind of piggybacking that, do you have any specific focus like within your handyman business as far as, I know you guys do bathroom remodeling, or like any kind of service focus that you guys are really pushing, or is it just like, hey, if you need a home improvement, we got you covered? But those are my two questions.
Sure. So first, the structure. So I'm manager heavy right now because we just promoted one of the guys, but we reached the point where I can't build out a second team without having some more management structure. So I'm the owner. So my responsibilities is marketing, interfacing with the bookkeeper, dealing with workers' comp, just back office. I have friends that often ask me, well, what do you, when I'm not in the field anymore, like, well, what do you do? Oh, 40, 50 hours a week, right, Alan? Just
Yeah.
so Nick is our general manager. So he came on board February of last year. So when I say my first 4 years was sunrise to past sunset, that changed bringing Nick on. So Nick started as a customer support manager, and I'll talk about that role. We just promoted him to general manager. So he's over day-to-day operations. And again, it's because we're starting to scale. We're going from 1 team to 2 teams. I'd like to have 3 teams this year. That might be a stretch, but definitely 2. We have Jeff. We just promoted him. He's been with us for probably a year, doing a great job. We promoted him to customer support manager. So our CSM, his responsibility is he goes out and does the estimates, and we'll probably talk about estimates here in a bit. He does the, excuse me, he does the estimates, and then, oh, excuse me, guys.
Yeah, you're fine, man.
He does the estimates, and then he starts the guys on the job. So if we're just putting in a ceiling fan, he's not starting them on that. But our sweet spot is like that 10-item list that customers have. So he'll walk the guys through the house. This is the room that we're fixing the drywall. This is where the dog chewed the windowsill, and then he's out. So generally his day starts with, he starts the guys, and then he does estimates from mid-morning to mid-afternoon. Then he's back in the office writing up the estimates.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's ultimately responsible for customer satisfaction because he learned the initial vision, what they wanted done. So that's what he does as a CSM. Then we have a team lead, Chris. All my guys are just brilliant. We have the team lead role because some jobs require multiple guys on the task, in the home. And he's there to make sure all 10 things got done. And then we have 3, we call them enhancers, techs, enhanced property maintenance.
I like it. Enhancers.
So we find that a CSM can handle 4 to 5 guys. Beyond that, they can't do enough estimates to keep them all busy, start all the guys and all that.
Okay, so you have 3 enhancers or 3 technicians, 1 lead,
Right.
over the 3 that are on the job, and then the customer service manager. Is that what you said?
Support manager.
Customer support manager. Okay, and he's doing all the estimates and sending those out. And then you just got a part-time office manager. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
I have a part-time office manager. I have a service that answers my phones, which changed my life. I use Sunshine Admin. Totally love them. Totally recommend them. So they field our phone calls. And
when did you, sorry to interrupt, when did you get the phone answering service? Because that is something that I think is a missed opportunity for a lot of people that are like, well, how can I grow my business? It's like, well, are you answering your phone all the time? Never. Well, that's how you can grow your business, by answering the phone. So when did you start looking into call answering service and taking like phone answering seriously?
May of 2021.
Okay.
Way too late.
And what's that called? Sunshine Answers?
Sunshine Admin.
Sunshine Admin. Okay.
And just for anybody considering, they put together a playbook for our business. We have generally a team, the same team of folks, so they know us, and we communicate via Slack. So 80-90% they can just roll with. It's normally somebody calling in for an estimate. They can put the data in. We're not like driving. I'm not driving. Sketching on a pad.
Down a hamburger.
Right. Putting the can of paint down, taking the call. And then the other thing, so we have differentiators, our differentiators on our website, and it also goes out in our estimates as page 2 of the estimates. And that's one of our differentiators, is we answer our phones 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday. If I had a person on staff doing that, it would cost me a fortune.
Yeah.
So Sunshine Admin was the company?
Correct. Sunshine Admin.
And then I'll also toss out one other. Abby Connect is one that I've had experience with, that they do a wonderful job. And the trick to these answering service, you have to train them. you have to equip them with the proper scripts, with the proper scenarios and really clear instructions. But once that kind of training
Yep.
trial has kind of, you've gone through that, I mean, it's dialed, because like you said, I mean, people are calling to get an estimate, and then so they actually book the estimate for your customer support manager.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and he just gets it on his calendar.
Just gets it on his calendar.
Very cool.
And then the other thing, just to take it to the next level, because I use Service Fusion, they have voice over IP built in. So I have several numbers. I have different numbers for Google, Facebook, Bing, so I can track where calls are coming from. So they come through my system and then bounce to Sunshine. So I have the call recordings. So I can even audit what they're doing.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, and so to recap, that Service Fusion, that's your customer CRM / the dispatch.
Field support management software.
Yes. Awesome.
So Rick, what have been some biggest struggles that you faced in this business, kind of getting it started, kind of running a business that's bringing in some pretty good income? What's been the biggest struggle for you, or some of them?
Boy, there's a lot, right? So for my first 4 years before Nick came on board, I was just running. I didn't know where money was going. I didn't know what I get my monthly P&L, but I didn't know what was going on. So that was you know what I mean. I mean,
Yeah.
I was doing a lot.
I laugh because I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now my challenge, I received a phone call from one of our electrician partners. He called me about a job. I have no idea who these people are. You know what I mean? So where I knew everything day to day before, now I only know maybe 50% of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was a big struggle. Obviously, Alan, fatigue, the need to be persistent. I had a friend that wanted to hop into the handyman business and lasted 4 or 6 months or something. And we were talking after he got out, and he was like, "How did you do it?" And when I explained the time I put into it, he was like, "Oh." For 4 years, I couldn't breathe.
Right.
Other challenges, obviously, hiring is a challenge. You got to have the right people on the bus. I'm real big on hire slowly, fire quickly. It's all about the people. It's tough having to let folks go or performance managing people. The other tip I was going to share is and I've hired hundreds in corporate. I've hired hundreds of people. I have a lot of experience with that, and there's no correlation between interviews and performance. You have to get them on the job.
Right.
But a mistake I find a lot of folks making is and this might be an overgeneralization, it takes about 3 hires to get one good one.
Wow.
My experience with other folks in trades is they hire their first guy, he's a knucklehead, and they're like, "I'm out. There's nobody good out there." Well,
Right.
no, you just gotta have to weed through them.
So let's talk about hiring a little bit more, because I know that's something that a lot of our listeners, they have like, how do I hire people? And Rick, you're unique too, because your technicians, most, if not all, they're veterans, right?
Yeah, we try to. So of my 6, so I'm number 7, of the 6, well, I'll include myself, of the 7, 3 are vets.
Okay, gotcha. So what is your hiring process like? Like, if you could walk us through, how you're finding these, great team members that obviously you have a lot of admiration for, which means they're really good. So how are you finding these really great fitting team members?
So at some point I moved to ADP for my payroll, and ADP allows you to run one ad at a time, nonstop, on ZipRecruiter. So that more than pays for my ADP subscription, because anybody that posts on ZipRecruiter, what is it, $200 for 2-3 weeks or something. So ZipRecruiter, always kind of networking. We laugh here. I've gotten at least two folks. My wife has since the kids grown up, and she has a tutoring business, and I've hired two of the dads, and they were just some amazing employees. Nick is one of them. So how crazy is that?
Dads
They
of
walked
the
in my
tutored
house.
kids?
What's that, Jason?
Dads of the tutored kids?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I mean, they walked in my house. She tutors out of the home.
Yeah.
That's
That's
cool.
a great relationship to have, though.
Right.
'Cause in my opinion, especially at the small family-owned business level, those connections that you have with your team members is just so important. That it really fuels them as well.
Yeah.
I've had people say to me, "You're so brave to have your own business." Yeah, but you know what's terrifying is sending a person into somebody's home.
Yeah.
That is terrifying.
Mm. So you found, so your team members thus far have largely been through through ZipRecruiter.
Yeah, ZipRecruiter.
Okay.
I've advertised on Craigslist before. I have gotten a guy off of that. So yeah, just kind of always being out there, always looking, always talking to folks.
So you said the first 4 years of your business, you were kind of by yourself. When did you exactly hire your first employee, and what employee was that? What was the first hire?
So in year one, I brought on a helper in September,
Okay.
and he was with me for a couple years, maybe. And then a couple part-timers, and then the first full-timer, and then second full-timer.
Was it a full-time enhancer or technician, or was it like someone to answer the phones or an estimator, or what was?
Enhancer.
Okay. Okay. And at what point in your journey did you stop being an enhancer?
At the end of year 4.
Okay, so is that the end of 2020, the end of last year?
It was February 2022 when Nick came on board.
Yeah, 22. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
The customer support manager took over all the in the field stuff for you.
Man, beautiful. Beautiful.
Okay. Last question on kind of the structure that I have at least is, so what do you do, Rick?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, like, what is your, as the owner up above, counting the money and making sure everything's running well and planning for the future and hiring all that stuff. But what is like a typical day for you look like now? Because you've got the CSM over the operations largely, call answering service, getting people on the calendar, that's being fulfilled by your enhancers and that team. So what does your time look like?
Sure. And I'll answer that. What I'll throw out there too is I've always had a bookkeeper, which is mission critical. I hear guys say that they do their own books, and if you can't make more money being in the field than what it takes the bookkeeper to do it, I mean, come on. So what do I do? So Nick just moved into the general manager position 2 weeks ago. We just promoted Jeff. So I'm transitioning, and I'm like 99% out now. So what do I do during the day? One of the things I want to be able to do is more vision stuff. My brain just feels like it's always in a knot. When you're trying to be the backstop, when Nick was a CSM and I was kind of the GM, you're always the backstop. Did we get everybody scheduled? Just kind of the double check and everything. Now that's Nick. So I want to get more visionary. I want to do more networking, right down, because everyone we meet goes, I need you. So it's like, I just need to go meet people. You'll see, I spend time with the data. And then, of course, the workers' comp and the bookkeeper has questions. The government needs info. They'll hit you up. You normally receive the letter and it says that they had to have the information yesterday. It's like I just got the letter.
Yeah.
What else? Jason, the biggest thing is I want to have figuratively back in the day, we had 3-ring notebooks. I want to have a 3-ring notebook that I can just hand to folks, because I'm all about scale. I'd love somebody to open up Colorado Springs, Omaha, Kansas City, And I want to just be able to hand them a book and say, this is how you hire. This is how you market. This is how you hang a ceiling fan. You know, when we go in to do a bathroom remodel, you know, you put the carpet protector down. So I spent a lot of time doing that.
That's great.
I just brought on an office manager, and I've already got hours into writing up how to do, because conceptually it's easy, you know, follow up on estimates. Well, how? You have to be able to find it in the system, you know, click here, and then you click here, and then this is, you know, gives you the list. And
That'll be a game changer for you, by the way, having someone dedicated to follow up on the estimates.
right. Yep.
Yep. That's huge. So, so Rick, what's worked well in your marketing? Like, how do you market? And what's been kind of the best, where's the best place to invest in marketing?
Sure. So, you know, we all need a time machine. I wish I could go back in time. I had heard, as many of us have, referrals. You know, the guys that are all proud. I'm all referrals. Well, I'm big on coaching and receiving coaching. And my coach said, and it wasn't his quote, but he just shared it. He said, referrals will make you a living, but it won't make you rich. And it was like, oh. So it wasn't until May of last year that I started SEO.
Wow.
I was with a wonderful person. He's a personal friend, professional SEO guy, just super. But what I found is he didn't get handyman. Nobody gets handyman, right? Well, what exactly do you guys do? Then in February or March, I moved over to Jason, Handyman Marketing Pros. Because of these podcasts, one of the neat things, and I shared this with Jason, we were doing an SEO call yesterday. One of the weird things about podcasts is I get to know folks, but they don't know me. I'm on the other end, right? So then I meet them in person. And I'm all like, we're buddy, like, I know you, you know, I've spent hours with you. That was a rabbit trail. So anyways, Jason gets handyman. I didn't have to explain what we do. We were reviewing numbers. We're early. I think we determined yesterday we're 4 months in, but all my numbers have already doubled.
Wow.
So where do we market, I think, was the question.
Yeah.
Obviously, Google Ads. Jason is a big proponent, and I think there's a lot of wisdom in it, that Facebook, Nextdoor, and I'm on both. You know, I spend money on ads on both, but that's like brand awareness, because we hear it all the time. I know you guys. I don't know. I've seen your trucks or seen you somewhere.
Right. Right.
I hope so. You know, I spend a few $100s a month on Facebook and Nextdoor getting brand awareness, but Google Ads, number one. If I had a time machine, I would have found a Jason type guy years ago and just found a way to pay for it. And then I just started Google local ads, and that's working pretty well. That's, if you're not familiar, it's also called Google Guarantee, or one of those two terms is the old name, and they have a new name now. And that puts you right at the top. So as Jason will talk about, the real estate, you show up at the top, show up on the map, show up in ads, and then hopefully organically you're up high.
So walk me through that. I mean, just for edification of the listeners here, how do you do that? Is that something that Jason does for you? Is that something that you log into Google My Business and there's a way to do those ads, like, you know, or are you running Facebook ads like monthly, weekly, or is someone else doing that for you?
I run Facebook and Nextdoor, and I run Google local ads. I don't remember the reason for that, Jason.
Yeah, so local service ads is amazing for any kind of like DIY, someone looking for paid ads. This is kind of just a plug for that. Is, you know, if you've got some money that you're looking for paid ads, like, and you can't spend more than like $300 or $500 a month, Google local service ads, you set it up, and there's no optimization, there's no marketing expertise involved. You just go through the background check verification, get the account set up, type in the type of jobs you want to be showing your ad for. So it makes it really
Jason,
straightforward.
You don't even type it in. There's a menu and you just choose. So it's not like highly customizable.
Yeah, it's it's hard to mess up. No, and there's no ongoing optimization because Google search ads, pay-per-click, it's a very different ballgame. You've got to look at negative keywords and like ad copy and there's all these different things to making those work. But local service ads are wonderful. And just to clarify too for listeners, like a huge piece of like Rick's success and what we work with too is Google Maps, a Google business profile, and just building those organic rankings. So, the ads is a great like way to just throttle leads by spending more money on paid traffic, paid ads. But the nuts and bolts of any basic foundational marketing is, great website and then a Google business profile that's set up correctly. And then you guys do an amazing job at generating reviews. I mean, you guys are up to 180 reviews and it just keeps going up. And so there's a lot of different factors and then, Chamber of Commerce and Nextdoor, Facebook group posting. So Rick has a very comprehensive marketing strategy, and obviously it takes, we'll dig into his numbers a little bit more towards the end of the show, but he runs an amazing business. So it all works together for him to be hitting these goals.
And what I just add to that is what a guy like Jason does, and what makes Jason special is he gets us. But what these guys do is they know the keywords and what to target. I learned yesterday he's putting pictures up on my Google profile and stuff, which adds to the algorithm. So that's why if I had a time machine, I should have brought in SEO long time ago.
Man, yeah.
I appreciate that shout out, man. So as far as like earlier on though, because we didn't start working together till March. Like you got up to, I mean, last year did 820,000. So what would you say, getting up to that point before you even looked at like a website and SEO, like for kind of the guys starting out or, that are owner operator, they're looking to kind of hire or add people, like what marketing worked really great for you personally when you were kind of building up year after year?
And before I answer that, I'll put a plug in for Facebook. One of the nice things about Facebook is you can choose your demographic. For a while, I was only doing women between 35 and 65 in the top 25% of income brackets. So that was that was my sweet spot. Problem is they don't go to Facebook to find a handyman, but it's brand awareness. What did I do early on is I logoed right away, professional business cards. We all show up in our maroon polos, gray pants. Our mantra is arrive on time, do excellent work, leave our work area clean. We preach it, we advertise it, we do it. That kept the phones ringing. My guys. So my challenge is not only to find competent techs or enhancers, but they have to be presentable. Right. Again, my avatar, my target customer is that like 35 to 65-year-old woman. We're going into her home. We have to be presentable, clean, communicate well. So that's what we did, Jason. And, some networking, but that was tough because I was working, crazy hours. Right.
Yeah, and I'm glad you kind of touched on that because I want to loop a little bit back to your team members because there's so much more than just like ZipRecruiter, right? What do you do to attract people that are a good culture fit that, they don't like show up clean and think like, oh man, I've got to clean myself up today. They're like, all right, let's go to work and I'm ready to like serve the mission of the business and get paid to do that. Any like thoughts or feedback on like how do you attract and like bring in these people that not only can do the job and they're looking for a job, it's a job match, but it's a culture fit?
Right. So it starts with, we're very clear about the arrive on time, do excellent work, leave our work area clean. We're very, it's real important that we look sharp. We have nice winter, we don't buy Carhartts, but nice winter, what do they call it, duck jackets. We have nice vests. So we look sharp. And I'm always replenishing. We make a big deal out of customer service. This is a personal passion of mine. Spent 20 years in corporate and got like 2 thank yous in that time. right? Normally I was in a group meeting and then a half hour later they were pounding on us. We get thanked all the time. We make a big deal out of reviews. You know, we text them out, you know, hey, Daryl just got a review. It's very important to me and Nick. Nick and I are a great fit. I've worked for bad bosses. Nick has worked for bad bosses. We treat everyone like adults, and if you don't play like an adult, you're just not on the team. We just don't play. You know, it's if I have to treat you like a child, it's not going to last long.
Mhm.
And that's another topic for another. You don't just fire people because then you have to pay them unemployment. Your unemployment rates go up. You know, there's a way to separate. But I think we have a pretty neat culture. We do a lot on Facebook, a lot on our website. We have pictures of the guys. You know, when you look at, you just put a handyman near me, encourage the listeners, put a handyman near me and look at the pictures, and it's like a finished project. Well, everybody can finish a bathroom.
Right.
But to show a sharp looking guy, smile on his face, you know, some of the guys will even screenshot the Facebook post, you know, hey, it was them, you know, oh, this is cool. Or they won't take credit, but they'll be like, oh, those were really nice folks, or, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
Sure. We've got to get to estimating and pricing, and then your kind of your tracking. But if you can quickly touch on how are your enhancers, your technicians, how do you compensate them?
So I think I pay them very well. I want to pay them kind of above market is my goal. I don't so one of my jams is, and this may help others, I pay everyone well out of the blocks. And then I give, you know, raises based on performance. But I don't have health insurance. I looked at giving health insurance last year, and none of the guys really wanted it. They all had it some way. So I compensate them well, treat them well. We give $25 bonuses for Google reviews. So I have an opportunity to bonus, you know, year-end bonuses, things like that.
Awesome.
So do you have any kind of like commission scale for like productivity or anything like that?
Man, we have talked a great deal about that, thought a great deal about that. I don't know how to pull that off because our challenge. So my one of the things that's unique about Enhance is all my guys are W-2.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm paying them 40 hours every week. So when we took that deep dive at the end of last year, everybody got paid except for me. So that's the challenge. So we've looked at, I want to bonus because if guys finish on time, that hits the bottom line, right?
Right.
You know, then we get to the next job. We have not yet come up with a good plan to do that. And again, you know, I know like Chris on his podcast, Trusted Toolbox out of Atlanta, he has like a low minimum hourly rate, and then they get commissioned. I'm not sure how to do that for W-2s yet.
Yeah, so we actually instituted a bonus incentive program for our employees the end of last year, and it's worked out really well. You know, basically they're paid, you know, a flat hourly rate for those 40 hours, but then depending on how many billed hours they bill in a week, they get an extra $1 an hour for those whole 40 hours, or an extra $3 an hour for those whole 40 hours. And it's really a good incentive because if they don't produce, then they don't really, they make their base pay. If they do produce and they make the business more money, they actually make more money, which is fantastic. Like that's how I want it to be, you know? So maybe me and you could talk a little bit more after this and talk about that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. If you could walk us through your pricing journey, Rick, like how do you price jobs? Where did you start at? We'd love to hear, where did you start? Like, how did you price jobs at first? And then how do you price jobs now?
Yeah. How much would you charge to tear down an awning and rebuild it and put a toilet on top of it?
Right.
I want you to answer that for me.
Right. Like an HGTV show, they were just walking through the house and this is a $30,000 kitchen and this is
yeah, that's going to cost you $100,000.
So I've been very fortunate. I've had some great coaches at the right times. I started with Handyman Startup. I think his name is Dan. So he got my head right as far as what we do is rocket science. To us, we would do it for free. We enjoy it. We're good at it. But to the client that's hiring us, it's rocket science, just like SEO to me. That's rocket science. So I started at 80 and progressively have moved up. Couple things with that. So the way I came up with our rate, today we're at 140 an hour. How I came up with it is, I know we're low on time, and you guys have talked a lot about this in past podcasts, but I know what our how much I pay everybody. I add 15% for burden, taxes and such. We give 2 weeks vacation and 6 paid holidays, so I factor that in. I factor in overhead costs. I know what that is. And then I want to know if we average 5 hours per producer, per enhancer per day, where do we have to be? So for that, it's 140. So how do you get 140 an hour? You have to have a sales funnel, because if you don't know where your next job is coming from, you just have to take anything with whatever anybody's paying. We've been pretty good about keeping our sales funnel full. So we work on the jobs that we make 140 an hour. And then I learned on this podcast, we used to do is it going to be 3 hours, 45 minutes? No, we're just doing the 2 hours, half day, full day, period.
Right. Now, do you have profit built into that pricing structure?
My break even is at 5 hours per guy per day. So everything beyond that is profit.
Okay.
And that 5 hours includes my pay.
Okay.
My
Cool.
salary.
Very cool. Thanks for breaking that down for us. So I would love to kind of hop into more of like your pricing. I know that you've been in business for a while. There's a lot of questions on the Handyman Journey Mastermind group about things like, what does gross revenue mean? What does gross profit mean? What does net profit mean? What does profit margin mean? And I'm wondering if you could kind of walk us through that, maybe using some of your numbers, just to kind of educate some of the listeners here on what some of those terminologies mean and why they are important to know in the business.
Sure. So the top line, often referred to as top line or revenue or sales or income, all means the same thing. That's what customers paid you. And then you take out what it costs directly to do those jobs. So what you paid your guys, the materials, sometimes you can put gas in there, whatever it took just to do that job. So you take the top line minus what it costs directly to do that job, and that gives you gross profit. So a good number is 30 to 35% for gross profit. I mean, a great number is even higher.
As much as we can get.
And then you start taking out all your expenses, the cost for your CRM. If you have an admin, if you have a building, if you have storage, what else? Cell phones. I'm going to look, I've got a P&L here. If you bought lunches, tradesman insurance, all that stuff. So then you subtract all that out, and what's left is called net profit. So as Chris from Trusted Toolbox says, I don't know if he said it in his podcast or his book, he calls it, that's the number. He wasn't referring to this, but he uses this phrase, and I love this phrase. Was the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
So the bottom line is net profit. So at the end of the day, was all that work worth it? Because hopefully you're not just working, to have nothing left over.
So that's fantastic. Thanks for breaking those down. So you said 30 to 35% of gross profit is kind of what you want to go for. What about net profit? What kind of percentage are you looking for there typically?
If it's less than 5%, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get to 15%. So that 5 to 10 is kind of where you want to be. 15 is probably world class.
Now it's world class, Rick.
does your pay come out of that net profit, or does it come out before in the overhead?
My salary is overhead.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so after I'm paid, net profit is what Enhance was left with.
Right on. Right on.
All right, so we just covered like profit, gross profit, net profit, all that stuff. So next question, Rick, is how do you guys estimate jobs? We already covered how the someone would call in. I know you get estimate requests. So if you could kind of just break down like your guys' estimate process and how you get the estimate in someone's hands.
Okay. So as we talked about, our call answering team scheduled it. The customer support manager goes out. I said earlier, we found that we win more when they meet us in person, where it's not just transactional. We like to walk the job with them, you know, what they want done, understand the vision. Ideally, there's a why. You know, there's not always a why behind the kitchen faucet, you know, drips, you know, just has to be fixed. But sometimes there's a why. We've done a few kids' bedrooms recently where the parents were trying to make these teenagers feel more comfortable at home, and we've actually painted the bedrooms black. And they put up like LED lights and stuff. I don't get the black thing, like ceiling trim, doors. But we've done that a couple of times for some different families now. But anyways, that's a vision, right? That's a why. They're trying to do that for the kids. We want to uncover that, and then we'll speak to that in our estimate when we write it up. And then we tell our client that we'll have them a written estimate within 3 days. We email it over, and then they can accept it online. And finally, I have somebody to follow up on them, because we do hear, you know, oh, I didn't get it. Well, actually, you did. But if your email is like mine, if you didn't get to it right away, it's 100 down the list.
Yep.
And you guys send estimates out directly through your Service Fusion software?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, we email it and text it. And here's a tip I learned last year. Like some low number of emails are read, 10% or so, but 90% of texts are read.
Yeah.
So we email it and text it.
Okay. Is that all done through Service Fusion too? The
Through
text?
Service Fusion, yeah.
That's
So,
good.
so obviously the text is a link which takes them to the estimate.
So I know that we talked a little off camera about Service Fusion, and I would like to kind of dig into that a little bit. How long have you used Service Fusion? Did you use anything before for your CRM or estimating or invoices? And what's really like the main thought of moving to Service Fusion?
Okay. So I started with Thrive. They were just beginning, and it was awful. I was with them maybe 4 months. And then I moved to BreezeWorks. BreezeWorks was inexpensive, but at the time, BreezeWorks told me we're good for about a 5-person team. It's not super robust. So then I moved to House Call Pro. And obviously House Call Pro is industry standard, but I wasn't getting the reporting that I wanted. So I moved to, I looked at a couple, I can't remember the other one I looked at, but then I moved to Service Fusion. Oh, get this, I did it March of last year, right after Nick came on board. So I changed bookkeepers. I'm now with Noble Financial, like no BS, Noble Financial out of Chicago. I've had 4 different bookkeepers, and Noble is incredible. If anybody's needing a bookkeeper, they know what they're doing. It's just game changer. So I got Nick. I changed bookkeepers, not to Noble yet. That bookkeeper was a disaster, and I switched to Service Fusion all at the beginning of last year. It was a nightmare. Oh, and I joined a new coaching program, 4-level coaching, which was they're all about the scaling. Great coaching. But last year I thought my head was going to explode. Service Fusion. What does Service Fusion do for me? So obviously the estimates, the invoices, the calendar, scheduling, they all do that. But the reporting is very robust. You can see, and I think House Call did this too. You can see when people opened up their emails for the estimate. One of the things I like about them is you can get voice over IP through Service Fusion. And what that cost me $25 a month plus $2 a line. And I've got like
Wow.
7 lines.
Wow.
I've got different numbers for Google and Facebook and all that, so I can track my calls. But I just brought on an office manager this week. I just gave her a number. She plugs into her laptop, so she's not taking calls on her cell phone or anything like that. I really love that. I can record the calls. I can listen to them. Trying to think of what else about Service Fusion.
Does
The
it
guys-
have email marketing at all, or text blasting or anything like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But for text, we now use Chirp, which is a company out there to run our campaigns. I do that through Sunshine, my call answering team.
Okay.
They actually run the campaigns. They respond to when somebody responds to the text. So I find Chirp to be more robust for text marketing, and I try to text my customers quarterly with an update, because I'll always get 5 phone calls after I do it. Oh, I couldn't remember the name of your company. I love you guys, but I couldn't remember the name. And
The enhancers.
right. But yeah, you can email market out of it, just not super robust.
Okay.
I don't do email blasts anymore, but when I did, I used it's the monkey one. What was Chimp?
MailChimp?
Yeah,
MailChimp.
MailChimp.
Yeah. One thing, Rick, I commend you on like anything that you're doing, you're like, how can I not do this?
Right.
And I think that's it's just an incredibly important and necessary mindset to have if you're really wanting to scale. Is you have to stop doing what you're doing and pay someone to do it, or find a service, or outsource it to a call answering service. I just love how creative you are in plugging in the pieces that ultimately just remove you layer after layer from all these different activities in your business. And then obviously having the responsibility, you got to look over everything, make sure it all works. But I mean, you've created a pretty well-oiled machine that starts with just the intention of, all right, I'm doing this text marketing and I don't want to do this anymore because my time is better spent somewhere else. What can I do to, remove myself from that? So
Right.
I think that's one thing that our listeners can take away from this for sure is, what are you doing that you cannot do and pay someone else to do that's going to free you up to spend more time on the job or spend more time in the office?
Anyone that, excuse me, Jason, I
Oh, you're good.
apologize. Anyone that struggles with that, I suggest Dan Sullivan's got a new book out, Who Not How, and that's what it's all about. Is instead of figuring out the how, figure out the who to do it.
Yeah. And there's lots of great stuff, and it takes a lot of courage though to actually do it. I know Alan and the Handyman Journey, they are really good at just helping the people kind of build those layers in to remove themselves, but it takes a lot of heart to actually do it. And so it's awesome that you've made it where you are, man. Let's see, we got another 5 minutes, so let's see. Let's go through what are your biggest wins, personal and business, from your entrepreneurial journey with Enhance, and then also conversely to that, the losses. And you could start with losses or wins, whichever one you want to do first.
So a win was I was having coffee with another entrepreneur. He had a kind of a similar journey as me, similar age. We were having coffee a few months ago, and we were talking about being institutionalized in corporate. I think he was a bigwig with Kohl's, like a regional or something. And we're talking, and it hit me. I had just left working with a senior citizen that enjoys taking baths in her tub, but she can't get in and out. So I was over there to do the estimate, and we were playing with the grab bars. If we put it here, and helping her in and out of the tub. She was dressed in it, right? But we were just trying to figure it out. And when I'm talking to this fella, we're talking just how cool it is what we're doing. I'm like, that's right. I was just helping a senior who likes taking baths. I was able to help her do that. We're going to have a solution for her. So that was, that's the kind of stuff, right? That's just huge.
Yeah. I'll say real quick, it beats the bank.
Oh,
And so
100%.
my corporate career, we hadn't talked about this, was in banking. And so something
Mine
my
too.
coach always tells me is, hey man, even in the roughest days, it's like beats the bank.
Right?
So beats Chase Bank.
Yep. I spent 15 years in the bank. Another win. I mean, these aren't like real like corporate things, but I got to work with my son for 2 or 3 summers. I would do it all again for that time. That was just incredible. Losses. So I started with no reserves, no backup plan financial, no second income. So we've been scrapping this whole time. A negative was when we hit the skids, probably started in October, definitely November, December, January, February, when everyone went to the sidelines. And I think it was because they just bought a gallon of milk from the store, if they're like my wife, and she's madder than a hornet, cost of milk and eggs, or put $4, a gallon of gas in the car. Everybody just went to the sidelines. I blew through my reserves. I blew through my business line, and I had to go to my HELOC to pay my guys. I wanted to vomit. It was horrific. So that was a low. That was one of those. Do I even want to keep doing this? Oh, I have to, because now I'm in debt.
Yeah.
Was that this last slow season here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But then fortunately March 1st happened, and now we're off to the races again. And remember, I have at the time 5 or 6 full-timers. So I just have a big load. And the thing with that is my guys are incredible. I should have looked before the phone call how many folks I've had on payroll. I've had a lot. But the current crew is top notch, and I didn't want to lose anybody. So that was a low. But then the high was what I was physically just sick over the whole thing. And I think I actually did get sick too. I think I got a wicked cold. When I finally told my wife, she was like, "No worry." I'm thinking she's gonna lose her mind, right? I'm losing my mind. She's like, "Oh no, man, we are directionally correct. We are on the path. It's all good."
Wow.
So that was kind of a low, and it's still a low, but that's, when you have somebody in your corner like that, who like isn't like just patting me on the head, like, "Oh, keep it up." It's like, no, I believe in this. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. So, Rick, what would you have any last advice for our viewers? Anything you'd want to leave them with?
Yep. Start SEO early. Don't wait like I did. If you're doing, I want to be careful. We're all at different places. But to me, if you're doing your books, come on, don't do your books. Go remodel a bath or something. Call answering, never cease to fail. You finally hit the lazy boy at 8:30 at night, and somebody's calling. We got to leave Boston. It's like, oh, come on. What else? Find a way to stay sane. I don't do very well with that. There's another good book out there, The Gap in the Game, that kind of changed my life. Another Dan Sullivan book. Coaching is incredible. I was with Handyman Startup for a while. That was great. I was with Tom Reber's Contractor Fight, and he's real aggressive, kind of a kick in your pants. I'm already kind of psycho about this stuff. I don't need the kicks in the pants just don't help me. But he has great material. Alan's stuff, the Handyman Success Journey. What I love about that is know your numbers. Alan's big on your numbers, all the collaboration. One of my big takeaways from Alan is he uses a word sometimes, patience. That's not even like on my radar. But I need it. And he said that on one of his podcasts or trainings or something. And he could have said like a Japanese word or something. I was like, but it's so true. Alan talks about Just be patient; it'll come. And then for me, I'm a believer. You know, it's finding what does the Lord have to do and what do I have to do? Because we're co-laborers. You know, Moses, as long as he held up the staff, you know, they were winning the battle, but he couldn't hold up the staff. He needed the system. You know, he needed guys to help hold him
Yeah.
up. So just it's a daily battle for me. What do I need to do, and what do I have to let God? And I haven't answered that. When I do, I'm going to write a book.
I'm
awesome.
excited to read that one.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, I want to give you guys some resources. If you guys want to connect with Jason Call, he does fantastic marketing at handymanmarketingpros.com. And you can connect with me over at handymanjourney.com. We both would love to connect with you. Also, get connected with the Handyman Journey Mastermind group on Facebook. There's about over 10,000 members in that group. It's a free group. Rick is part of that group, and it's just fantastic collaboration from handymen all around the world. So you need to join that. And also, if you are listening to this podcast on any podcast listener device, leave us a review. So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever in the universe you listen to music or podcasts, leave us a review. That will really help get this podcast onto the next person that needs to hear it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been a fantastic podcast. Thank you, Rick, for coming on. Thank you to my co-host, Jason Call. And thank you to our listeners. We would not be here if it wasn't for you guys listening. We would just be talking into the universe. So we appreciate you guys. We want to ultimately bring you hope that you can have a better tomorrow. And we bring that hope by listening to other people's stories and sharing that with you. So thank you guys so much. And we will catch you guys on the next podcast.